Welcome to episode 49 of I Thought I Knew How, a podcast about knitting and life and all sorts. I'm your host, Anne Frost, and this episode was recorded on December 12th, 2020. We're doing something a little different today. We're going to talk about the winter holidays happening here in the Northern Hemisphere. Well, the holidays are happening worldwide. We are just experiencing them as winter events here in the North. We'll talk about the holidays and crafting related to them, knitworthiness, and some general thoughts about holidays. I know I owe you the audio for the last interview I did in Shetland. That's going to come out as a bonus episode in the next few days because we have a lot to cover today. Let's get started. I realized the other day that I was really missing the feeling of the holidays, and I say that plurally because as I grew up, I learned more and more about other faith traditions' winter holidays. In elementary school, we were taught surface-level information about Hanukkah. Later, I was a local student at a high school where most of the girls boarded at the school, so the school would acknowledge any holiday important to a currently enrolled student. So Ramadan was added to my knowledge base. Ramadan actually travels through the calendar, so it's not a winter holiday at the moment, but in high school and college it was. While I was in college, I worked at an Indian restaurant, and my amazing bosses would include us in their observances, and I learned about Diwali. A neo-pagan friend at college taught me about Yule as a religious holiday separate from Christmas. After hopping from intended major to intended major for 2 years in college, I finally decided I wanted to teach elementary school. And as a potential elementary school teacher, I could major in anything I wanted as long as I took a certain handful of classes from the education department. So I decided to major in religion and biblical literature. I focused on the Hebrew Bible / Old Testament and split the rest of my required credits between early Christian history, Buddhism, and modern Judaism. When I began teaching, our social studies in the wintertime was basically given over to learning about the winter holidays of the world as a way to spark interest in the wider culture of different areas. One co-teacher would cook latkes for 90 students every year, while the kids learned about the Maccabees reclaiming the temple and the significance of the temple to the Jews. We would learn about the celebration of Ramadan and broaden that out into discussions about the 7 pillars of Islam. Diwali became an integrated unit of social studies, science, and art as we talked about Hinduism and India, the properties of light, and color theory. So for the first half of my life, the winter holidays were a gateway. Winter was not just about Christmas for me, but a string of celebrations that helped me understand people better and feel connected to people as people, rather than stereotypes. But I have found that the older I get, the more insular my life has become, especially when you do most of your living at home, which honestly I have been since 2009. More so since moving to my small town in Connecticut, and double that since March of this year. I miss being tossed in with someone's Diwali celebration and being invited over to join in on an evening of Hanukkah. The long-running Welcome Yule at the community theater had to be canceled this year. I love Christmas. I find a great deal of meaning in Christmas, and there is enough variety between how various Christian churches celebrate that I'm even missing the exposure to other congregations through their events this year. So I turn to you. I put out a call to the community for some of your winter holiday experiences, and you delivered. We will spend this episode with music and your stories and my stories. There is some crafting to be found wound through many of them. I do hope that you will take some quiet time for yourself, pick up your knitting, take a deep breath, and enjoy the contributions. Hanukkah is celebrated to commemorate a miracle that took place nearly 2,200 years ago. Jerusalem changed hands from being under Egyptian control to Syrian control, and at first the Jews were allowed to continue practicing their customs, but after a few decades, some shifting of control happened, and the practice of Judaism was basically outlawed. The temple was repurposed by the Syrians as a temple to Zeus. They sacrificed pigs on the altar. This shift was too much to be borne, so a priest and his 5 sons led a revolt and reclaimed control of the area. One of the sons, Yehuda, or Judah, was the leader by the time of their victory, and he ordered that the temple be cleansed and a new altar built. A special type of oil was needed to light the menorah within the temple, which was required to burn all day and night, but they were only able to find enough oil for 1 day. Miraculously, though, the oil lasted 8 days, long enough for them to get more oil to maintain the flame. To commemorate the miracle, the festival of Hanukkah was established. Listener Shana recently was on Jana Knit's podcast to talk to her about how Hanukkah is celebrated as part of Jana's Advent series, and I'll put a link in the show notes so you can hear more about modern Hanukkah. But Shana also sent in a little poetic countdown for us. She begins by saying, "Although Hanukkah is a minor Jewish festival, it is a lovely way to celebrate light in the darkest part of this very dark year. Here's my short contribution. A 2020 Hanukkah poem. 8 nights of shining candlelight, 7 latkes frying in oil, 6 presents waiting to be opened, 5 Hebrew songs to sing, 4 sides on the dreidel, 3 jelly donuts for dessert, 2 excited children, 1 unforgettable Hanukkah." I have several very fond memories of being invited to join in on Hanukkah celebrations. Rather than sharing those, I'll share the one that taught me a lesson, though it still makes me cringe. One of my Judaism professors would invite his students over for one night of Hanukkah at his house with his wife. They would feed us, so of course most of us would show up, and we would do the candle lighting together and then settle in to talking and gambling while playing the dreidel. I was a very enthusiastic dreidler. First of all, this was the first time I had ever been taught how to play with the dreidel, and so I was very excited to finally be playing it. But it was also a very joyful group that night, and I may have been a little hyper. The menorah was on the table where we were playing, and with one of my spins, the dreidel landed sort of leaning against it. So what do I do as a very enthusiastic dreidel newbie who needs to get an answer for her bet? I blew on it. Now, if this had been a birthday cake, you all would have been so proud of my lung capacity and the ability to clear the candles in one puff. But it was not a birthday cake. It was a menorah on day 3 of Hanukkah, and the candles are meant to burn until they burn out naturally. I blew all 3 of the daily candles and the center servant candle completely out. The room froze. I froze. I sank into utter mortification because if the candles don't burn out naturally, you are supposed to do the ceremony again. My professor looked to his wife. She looked at me. "Was that an accident?" she asked. I began to apologize profusely. I was horrified by what I had done as a guest in their house to their religious observance. She held up one hand and asked again, "Was that an accident?" "Of course," I declared. I was trying to knock over the dreidel and I wasn't thinking. She held up her hand again. "If it was an accident, it's okay." And then she walked into the kitchen. The party picked up again. I still felt like an idiot. I have no idea what was said after she got to the kitchen, but she had me back over after that, so I assumed that she really had forgiven me. And I did bake her a pie too, for good measure. I do still cringe about that night. I am cringing now sharing it. So why share it? That night is the night that I learned through experience about the importance of knowing someone's motives before reacting. If I had been some jerk kid who came in and thought I was being funny and blew out the candles as a joke, I'm sure the reaction would have been very different. But she took the time to ask me what I meant by my action before she reacted. she insisted that some light be thrown on the situation. I can't say I always live up to her example from that night, but I do try. Thanks, Jody. This is Candle by Roberto, Jana. One discussion that always comes up this time of year is the question of knitworthiness. As we consider who we are going to knit holiday gifts for, we have to think about who is going to appreciate the time that went into the making and take proper care of the finished item. Who will take the time to clean it properly? Who is actually going to wear what we've made? Some of this falls on our shoulders. We can't pick a project outside of someone's comfort zone and then be offended when they don't wear it. Is the person sensitive to certain wools? Are there colors that they simply cannot stand? Would a certain sweater flatter the recipient or make them look like a lollipop with legs? But sometimes, even when we feel like we get it all right, it still doesn't work out. People don't have the time to clean that lovely wool hat properly, so they try to sneak it through the washing machine just once, and it comes out looking like roadkill. Or they wear it a few times, but then tuck it away when it needs to be cleaned and just let it sit unworn for the rest of time. There's even those who declare gifts too nice, knowing how much work you put into it, and won't wear it out of a misguided sense of respect. Growing up, I was reluctantly knitworthy. My mother knit obsessively from the Maxim catalog. Maxim has been a mail-order crafting company since the 1950s, and in the 80s and 90s, it seemed like the bulk of their catalog was given over to intarsia sweaters. In my memory, the sweater patterns were mainly animals that took up the entire front of the sweater, but they actually have their patterns available for sale still. And looking through them the other night, I found that my memory of just how many featured giant animal heads was a little off. But in the late 80s and 90s, the kits were acrylic yarn in boxy designs that did me no favors. My mom was almost always working on a Mary Maxim sweater for me or a grandchild or a child from church. She loved them because the kits came with everything she needed. They knit at a fairly large gauge, so they were quick, and because they were acrylic, they were machine washable. I can't say that I was a fan. The acrylic wasn't particularly comfy against the skin, and if I accidentally wore them on a day that warmed up on me, it was like wearing a plastic trash bag. The designs she picked were usually either too young for me or very grandmotherly, and the arms were always an inch too short. But I wore them all because I knew how proud she was of them. There is one that I legitimately liked, and the pattern is still on the website. It had a large Christmas tree on one side with presents below and to the side of it. That was all knit into the fabric of the sweater in intarsia. And then on the tree were strings of beads attached like garland, red ribbon bows that were pinned in place from the back, and on the inside was a secret pocket that would hold the battery pack for a short string of lights that you would poke through the knitted tree. It was fantastic. I mean, at the time she knit it, it was meant to be an appreciated for all its glory without a hint of irony sweater, but I loved it as an ironic, ugly Christmas sweater anyway. I wore that every year at Christmastime, with or without the lights, through my high school and college years. In the end, it went to Goodwill. The sleeves were decidedly too short on it, and I was having to downsize. So it went, along with several other sweaters from the Mary Maxim era of my mother's knitting life. I really hope that someone found it and is loving it to this day. They could well be. That acrylic yarn is going to outlive all of us. I am very, very tempted by the pattern on the website. I may need to reknit it in wool for next year. Eventually, my mother knit enough sweaters for other people that she finally decided it was time to knit something for herself. She ordered a few Mary Maxim kits in her size and got to it. It only took 2 or 3 kits before she realized through personal experience that while she thought they were pretty, they really weren't that comfortable to wear. My mother had knit sweaters for my brothers when they were young out of wool, and she'd take sweater orders from people and knit them out of the yarn they preferred, which often necessitated a trip to the yarn shop. I'd even had a few non-Mary Maxim sweaters from her, knit from something that caught her eye on one of those trips. It took my mother a good 15 years of knitting, though, to decide that she was knitworthy. And after that, it took her only a couple of sweaters to decide that she was worthy of the good stuff, and started visiting the yarn shop in search of something for herself. After that, all her knitting was for herself or her grandkids. I do have one Christmas sweater knit by my mother still. It's a vest from the Mary Maxim catalog. A vest, so it didn't fall victim to the purge of sweaters with too short sleeves. It is red with a giant teddy bear on the front, and it is awful. I've only worn it a few times because the Christmas tree sweater came into my life the following year, but it lives with our Christmas decorations, and I see it every year. It's the last thing I have that my mother knit for me, so it's not going anywhere. Listener Shelley sent in a story about someone who is the epitome of knitworthy. I learned to knit in 2002 when I had just retired. In May of 2003, when I left in a tiny camper for a 6-month trip across Canada and into Alaska, the friend who had taught me to knit said, "Follow signs that say yarn down farm roads when you are traveling." So I did, and found Spring Harvest Farm in Stony Plain, Alberta. There I purchased some yarn with a fiber content of 70% mohair and 30% wool. The woman I bought it from had made it from her own goats and sheep and had it dyed in several nice colors. I chose a dark teal. A month later, I was in a library in Palmer, Alaska, and found a pattern book with a lattice with seed stitch. I knit my way through the month of July in Alaska and finished my first scarf made from farm yarn. Arriving back in Massachusetts in October, just in time for the fall weather to begin, and when folks in the Northeast are starting to think about getting out their warmer clothes, I set the scarf out with all intentions of it being mine. My husband's stepmother, Jean, had another plan for it. Over her Thanksgiving visit, she saw it, put it on, and declared it hers. Okay with me, she looked great in it and it made her smile. She wore it for quite a few years, taking wonderful care of it. Just before Christmas in 2010, Jean passed away. Shortly before that, on our last visit with Jean, she gave the scarf back to me, saying she wanted it to be loved and used in the same way she had loved and used it. Every year, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, I pull the scarf back out. It is a meaningful reminder of a very wonderful woman, and a reminder that it is better to give than to receive. I love it. Jean got it. Knitted gifts are meant to be worn, cared for, and loved. Thank you so much for sending that in, Shelley. May all our gifts this year land in the hands of someone as knitworthy as Jean. Please enjoy Robbie Cavanaugh singing Silent Night.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round your virgin mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night, shepherds quake at the sight, glory stream from heaven afar, heavenly hosts sing hallelujah, Christ the Savior is born, Christ the Savior is born. Silent night, holy night, Son of God, love's pure light, radiant beams from thy holy face, with the dawn of redeeming grace. Jesus, Lord, at thy birth, Jesus, Lord, at thy birth. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round
Christmas is almost synonymous with crafting in my mind, and of course the tree is a natural place for crafting energy to be directed. Listener Kelly sent in this post from her blog, Document Geek, from 2014. I share it with you, lightly edited, and I encourage you to find the link to the post in the show notes so you can see some of the lovely decorations she describes. This is Christmas and the Love of Documentation. I was chatting with my sister recently about family Christmas traditions. As her children are growing older, she wanted to incorporate some of our family Christmas traditions into her own family. We both got to thinking about it, and the tradition that first came to mind was the annual documentation of the Christmas ornaments. In my family growing up, we would document all of our Christmas ornaments every year: the ornament description, who they were from, the year added to the collection. I thought this practice was perfectly normal and something that every family did. When I was older, I learned that it was unique to our family. It was something my mother started, perhaps simply to prevent us from inadvertently discarding ornaments still hung in the dried-out tree before we hauled it to the dump. Whatever the reason, we documented our ornaments faithfully every year. At some point in time, we had even typed up a digital copy of the list, and it was kept safely on a 5-inch floppy disk. At the close of each Christmas season, we would wrap each ornament individually in paper towels or large dinner napkins. So when December rolled around again the following year, we would each get out our designated box of ornaments and start unwrapping them. It was always so exciting to see what was hidden inside each paper towel. It was like unwrapping 100 Christmas presents. My sister and I would each have our favorites, and as we were decorating, we'd talk about where we got them, who made them for us, and why we liked them. Our favorite ornaments were the handmade ones. We had made quite a few ornaments in Girl Scouts. We had messy glitter snowmen, macaroni angels, and clothespin clowns. Sometimes we'd have to do a little repair work on the ornaments as they began to show signs of wear. Each year brought another 1 or 2 ornaments to the collection. We had a fair number of livestock ornaments, mostly sheep. We were a 4-H and FFA family, which meant that we not only loved livestock, we owned livestock, and we even had a small-scale sheep breeding operation in our backyard. Our annual family vacation was spending a week, often 2, camping at the county fair, where we would show our animals. So yes, of course, we would have sheep ornaments, and plenty of them. I'm also an avid knitter and even tried spinning for a while, so I still have a soft spot in my heart for sheep, even though I no longer choose to own them. And so, the sheep ornament collection keeps growing. Around the age of 10 or 11, we took a trip to San Diego and stopped by the fancy Christmas store in the mall. That's when I was first introduced to the elegantly mass-produced ornaments sold there. No handmade stuff here, all imported from the Far East by the cargo shipload. Sometimes the ornaments would come in sets. We usually grouped those together on the list. My sister had a very similar set of ceramic Raggedy Ann and Andes, so in order to keep them straight, my mom wrote our names on the back of our Raggedy Andes. A number of the ornaments have dates on them, usually written in black marker. Sometimes the date is so faint that it's tough to read. Sometimes the date is imprinted on the ornament or perhaps even part of the design. Though my master list of the ornaments is long gone, it's neat to see when certain ornaments were given to me. A wooden plaque, for example, was from the Christmas of 1976, but I wasn't even born until 4 months later. Someone gave me this gift when I was still in utero. Sometimes the ornaments were from special trips or very special times in our life. We went to Hawaii this summer between 5th and 6th grade, and I got a Christmas ornament while we were there. In 2009, my husband and I started our marine publishing business. I found a crystal yacht ornament on eBay to commemorate that year. For years, I had prayed to God, asking for a secure job and a way for us to reliably support ourselves. And He answered. God had prepared a ready-made publishing business for us. 2009 was the start of something new. While we loved all the ornaments, there were some that held a special place in our hearts. Those were the ones my grandmother had made. She was very crafty, had grown up during the Depression, and for nearly 2 decades, we each received 1 or 2 ornaments that she had made by hand. In fact, every single year, she made ornaments for each of her 10 grandchildren for at least 2 decades. She made us glittery silk balls, sequin snowmen, crocheted snowflakes, and plastic canvas bird feeders, complete with birdseed. I mentioned it to my grandfather recently, and he told me that she would order kits from Lee Ward's. I was able to track down a Lee Ward's catalog for sale on Etsy. I remember some of these exact ornaments hanging from my childhood tree. Grandma's ornaments went through phases. For several years, our ornaments were made of felt with a few sequins. Then for a couple years, we got plastic canvas ornaments. Then Grandma moved into a sequined ball phase for a few years. The last ornament I got from her was the crocheted snowflake. I owe Grandma Ewing a debt of gratitude as she taught me how to knit. I'm sure my knitting and crochet aptitude come in large part from her. As a child, my introduction to documentation came in the form of something fun, an annual Christmas tradition. We documented our Christmas ornaments because my mother decided it was important to keep track of them. I'm not sure if she instituted this practice because she wanted me to fall in love with record keeping. I doubt it. But it helped to instill in me the importance of keeping an organized list of something that I cared about. We documented the ornaments because it mattered. It mattered who gave them to us, what they look like, and when we received them. It all mattered. As an adult, I still love documentation. I make a good living at it, in fact. I write about boats, what equipment they contained, how they were built, and when to do scheduled maintenance. As a child, I was the end user of my documentation, but now as an adult, my documentation is for someone other than myself. The tradition of documentation that I learned as a child helped to prepare me for my eventual career. I encourage you to start a new tradition with your family, documenting the Christmas ornaments. Who would think that a Christmas tradition could evolve into a career? Thank you, Kelly, for sending that in. It's a brilliant idea, too. We have 3 Christmas trees in our house, 1 large artificial tree in the living room, a live tree in the dining room that provides us with the appropriate scent of the season for the house, and a small artificial tree on the landing. We have a lot of ornaments. There are a few reasons for this. One is that when we lived in the Philippines, we had access to a lot of ornaments for next to nothing. Many of the ornaments that you see in the big box stores are made in the Philippines, and the most delicate ones are sold locally. I could not pass them up. But I also buy 3 pewter ornaments every year, 1 for the family and 1 for each child. The thought is that when one of the kids moves out, she can take her ornaments with her and have a tree's worth all ready for her first Christmas out of the house. With an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old, that's a lot of ornaments to begin with, but when you add in the ornaments that they also received as gifts from grandparents and friends over the years, they could easily decorate a respectably sized tree on their own. So I laughed when Kelly sent me this blog post to share because as I was decorating the trees this year, I realized that my memory is getting foggy about when some of the ornaments came into the collection and from whom and for which daughter. All of the yearly pewter ornaments have the name and year engraven on them, but the handmade ones and the ones that were gifts from others, those I am getting foggy on. I had already resolved to do my best to pack them separately by owner this year and recruit my kids to help in the task. If you visit Kelly's blog by using the link in the show notes, not only will you get to see the ornament she described, but at the end of the post, she provides a link to an ornament list template. Kelly, your timing was perfect. Thank you for that. Patrons, there is a gift for you on the Patreon feed that was made by Kelly as well. They are some Fair Isle themed printable tags for your knits that will help you clearly pass along information about care instructions and fiber content to the recipient. Make sure that you visit the Patreon feed before December 31st to download those to your computer, and then you can print them out as you need them. There's also a coupon code for patrons to Kelly's Etsy shop called Knit Swag that is good through 2021. Please enjoy Nicholas Rowe singing Christmastime again.
The snow is falling and it's getting colder now. Soon that time of year it will begin. The children playing, making angels in the snow. Grab the mistletoe, it's Christmas time again. when bells start ringing and the lights start glowing up, I get to thinking about my oldest friends. I'll hang some holly on the door for when they come. It won't be long, it's Christmas time again. Let's spend the whole day chopping down a Christmas tree, stringing it with lights of white and red. Let's spend the whole day baking Christmas cookies and knitting Christmas scarves for all our friends. This is the time of year when everyone can feel a joy and a longing deep within. It's Christmas time again. It's Christmas time again. If you put a kettle on, I will start a fire, and we can write our Christmas cards out in the den, saying, oh, how we love you, and we hope you're doing well. Drop it in the mail, it's Christmas time again. With lovers ice skating and snowmen on the lawn, there is that overwhelming feeling that you get. The church choir singing joy to the world. Let us listen to the words and not forget. This is the time of the year where everyone can feel a joy and a longing deep within. It's Christmas time again. It's Christmas time again. It's Christmas time again. It's Christmas time again.
There are two sides to Christmas. There is the spiritual/religious side. Those who are observant Christians recognize Christmas as the celebration of the birth of Christ. Those who are more secular about their observance still often recognize it as a time for charity and extra effort to be kind. But there is unquestionably a commercial side to Christmas as well, the Santa side, if you will. I'm happy to say that I enjoy both sides of Christmas. Gifts, giving and receiving, are my love language, so the commercial side is right up my alley, and as an observant Christian, I am struck with awe by the story of the Christ child. I will pause to say that some parents who may be listening right now, who live in households that are visited by Santa, may want to skip ahead until you hear the next song playing. As my children became aware of Christmas, I wanted to make sure that they had an appreciation for both sides of Christmas. I briefly considered bringing them in on the Santa secret from the beginning, but as a teacher, I had met quite a few children whose parents had made that choice. And among those particular children, I noticed a sense of superiority and cynicism in dealing with their classmates. And I did not want that for my kids. We could not afford an unrestrained Santa, though. When the kids were little, we were broke. My husband was still in college and working full-time at the university while I had retired early from teaching to raise children. A letter to Santa requesting a pony or a rideable child-sized car would not have worked. So when my oldest was old enough to comprehend the idea of Santa, I laid out the ground rules. Some of the shows on TV exaggerated what Santa did, I explained. Santa does not actually give animals or electronics as gifts, nor did he do all of the presents under the tree. Santa filled the stockings and gave one gift. Great. Perfect. My oldest was on board. Letters to Santa were always written very early, usually a day or two before Thanksgiving. The girls were told this was to make sure that they got to Santa in time, but really it was because I was hoping I could find what they asked for in a Black Friday sale. That year, my oldest wrote her letter and left it with me to mail. She requested something we could afford. All was well. The following year, her sister wanted in on the Santa letters. I reminded them both of what Santa can and cannot do. They wrote their letters a few days before Thanksgiving and gave them to me to mail. They both picked things that I found for sale after Thanksgiving, and all was well. Only we were really broke that year. We were maybe a week from Christmas, and I had no budget left and nothing to use to buy stocking stuffers. My mother had always put an orange, an apple, and nuts in the foot of our stockings, and I figured I could swing those because they doubled as actual food we could eat that week, but I wasn't going to be able to do anything else. My dad called and talked to the girls. He asked them what they wanted for Christmas and then got on the phone with me and said he was going to send me a check for $50 so I could go buy a toy for each of them to wrap and say that they were from him. Okie doke. We're saving on postage. We had a plan. One day, while I was waiting for the check to arrive, my youngest came up to me with a piece of paper with some writing on it. I asked her what it said, and she explained that it was her new letter to Santa. I told her we had already mailed the letter, and she said yes, but it's okay. This was her new letter. So I asked her to read it to me. She pointed to a picture she had drawn on it of a box with some squiggles inside and declared, "Dear Santa, I would like a box of dresses. Love, Abby." My heart sank. I had already bought her Santa gift, and it was not a box of dresses. I explained to her that it was too late for the letter to get to Santa. She calmly said it was okay. I reminded her that Santa only gives one present. She patiently explained that a box of dresses is only one thing. She was 4 years old and finding loopholes. No matter what I said, she just calmly explained to me that Santa could handle it, and then just walked away, clearly a little disappointed by my lack of faith. The check arrived that day. My husband cashed it, and I had $50 to work with. I decided I was going to do my best to get a gift for my oldest child, a few stocking stuffers, and then I'd use what was left to buy a dress for Abby to come from Santa, and the Santa gift I'd already bought could be relabeled to be from Grandpa. I could make it work. A dress-up dress would run me $20 if I could find one on sale. I knew this already. I had 2 daughters. I knew all about the play dress aisle. I could spend $20 on a gift for my oldest and get some little odds and ends for stockings with the last 10. I made my way through a few of the big box stores looking for a particular stuffed animal that my oldest wanted, and I was coming up empty. Also, none of them had their dress-up dresses on sale, so I went over to the giant Toys R Us. They had the stuffy I was looking for, and it was even marked down. Great. Winning. I was saving enough on that I could pay full price for a dress if I needed to and still have the $10 for stockings. I got to the play dress aisle, and none of them had actual prices on them. Even the hooks they were hanging on didn't have prices on them. So I took one down the aisle to the little price check scanner, and I scanned the tag. $2.95 popped up on the screen. So I went back and got another dress from the same brand and scanned that. $2.99. A third scanned at $2.99, another at $7.99, and another at $5.49. None of that made sense. These dresses were normally $25, and I had never seen them on sale for less than $17. Something was up. I left the dress that was $7.99 because clearly that was highway robbery at this point. And I took the other 4 dresses and the stuffy, and I went to the register. Before she could even start ringing things up, I told the cashier that I thought something was wrong with the pricing on the dresses. She rang one up and saw that it was $2.99, and she got on the phone to the manager. The manager bustled over, clearly done with the shenanigans of the Christmas season, and when she saw the price, she had the clerk scan another. Then, with no emotion, she told the clerk to honor the price and was on her walkie-talkie in the same breath, telling someone to get over to the costume aisle and clear out the play dresses and get the price codes assigned to them fixed. And that, my friends, is how I came to find myself crying in the checkout line of a Toys R Us in Mesa, Arizona. It's also how I came to believe in Santa. You can call it coincidence or blind luck. I choose to see it as one of those moments when you are reminded that faith is a powerful thing and someone has your back. Through the years that my girls were growing up, Santa always came through, but eventually my oldest came to me wanting to know the truth, so I told her. And I told her that Santa is not a prank parents play on children. We are not trying to make them look like fools. Santa is a lesson about giving without expectation of thanks or reciprocation. Santa brings light to others, and sometimes Santa gets a little help too. And I told her the story that I'd come to think of as the miracle of the dresses. And I invited her to be a Santa now that she knew the whole story. The next year, my youngest wanted to know, and she was given the same explanation and told the background of her box of dresses, and she became a Santa too. Please enjoy Lucky Day by Zach Nelson.
Today is gonna be a little something more. I've got a plan in mind, a special thing in store. The light bulb inside my head says, get out and play, 'cause you never feel this way. It's my lucky day, it's my lucky day. It's my lucky day, my lucky day. Don't need a pot of gold, a rabbit's foot or to be told. It's my lucky day, it's my lucky day. Slept in 'cause I don't care and didn't make the bed. Sip coffee on my couch, what can I do instead? No work, it's only fun, 'cause it's all okay. 'Cause you never feel this way. It's my lucky day, it's my lucky day. It's my lucky day, my lucky day. Don't need a pot of gold, a rabbit's foot or to be told. It's my lucky day, it's my lucky day. 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 Don't need a pot of gold, a rabbit's foot or to be told. It's my lucky day, it's my lucky day. It's my lucky day. It's my lucky day. Don't need a pot of gold, a rabbit's foot or to be told. It's my lucky day, it's my lucky day.
When I was a child, I used to think it a shame that Santa didn't visit adults too, but I think now I know it's because, hopefully, by the time we are adults, we have learned the lesson Santa is trying to teach. Listener Monica shared this story from her childhood. When I was a child, I used to ask my mom why Santa didn't bring a gift for her, and she would always say, I am the best gift for her. So almost every day during the season, I used to crawl under the Christmas tree and tell her that the gift for her had just arrived. What a lovely lesson to teach her daughter. Gifts are wonderful, but the people in our lives are better still. With all the weirdness of 2020, I want to thank you for being a gift to me. I cannot tell you how many times this year I have felt discouraged by circumstances or stressed trying to get an episode together, only to check my email or open Instagram and find a message from a listener telling me how much they enjoy the podcast. That's really... People just don't do that enough for people, especially now when we are being encouraged to stay apart to stay safe. We didn't really talk about Diwali because it's a little earlier in the year and no one sent in a story about it. Diwali is a New Year celebration and a celebration of the triumph of light over darkness. It's a time to clean and begin fresh. It comes as days are getting shorter and serves as a reminder that the dark days ahead will be just for a while before they begin to brighten again. The Gregorian New Year on January 1st is also a time to reflect and renew. New Year, Diwali, Christmas, and Hanukkah, all of these holidays are celebrated with light. Candles, electric lights, fireworks, an appreciation of and for the gift of light. Before I say goodbye, I'd like to encourage you to spread some light between now and the end of the year. It is so important to show love for others, especially given our 9 months of limited contact. There are about 2.5 weeks left of the year. Do something every day to bring light to someone. A phone call, a note, a chore done on their behalf, a set of knitted wrist warmers. If you need ideas, my church puts out a calendar of suggestions every year for the 25 days leading up to Christmas. It is Christian-centric, but only a few of the days are Christian-specific. The rest are things that apply to anyone, like Day 2, that suggests you pick someone who is a loving person and highlight them on social media, or Day 9, that suggests you send a copy of your favorite book to a friend. Day 6 suggests you fast for 1 or 2 meals and then send the money you saved on the food you would have eaten to a food charity. I'll link to the calendar in the show notes in case you want some ideas, but you know you. You know the people you love and the people around you. How can you bring a smile? How can you make their life a little lighter? Do that thing. It's going to get colder and darker still, but we can bring the light. Thank you to everyone who sent in a story or experience for this episode. It was such short notice, and you came through for us all. I smiled at every message. I will link to everyone who contributed in the show notes so you can find them. Remember that we have the Tansy Knit-Along starting in a few weeks' time. Watch the Facebook, MeWe, and Instagram accounts for information. And this is me saying goodbye for a few weeks. I need to turn my attention to the holidays and a few projects, but I will be back with you in 2021. I'm leaving you with one more song describing how I feel as I wrap up 2020. It's Thankful by Bitmusic Pro. And until next time, may you be blessed with stitches that never drop, yarn without joins, and plenty of time to knit.
A razor. What a good life me have from me bone. Full a good time all man have fi thrown. From a little child until now me grown. Know where me head and where me coming from. God are you in control. Move me so real like a tractor. Blessings me feel I'm a victor. The tip on the beat make me sing song. God I'm thankful today for everything that you given to me. I feel so happy today. And every time feels better for me. God, I'm thankful today. Oh, I feel so happy today. Oh, your love for me, God, is ever non-stop. A reason why me feeling so grateful. I could have never ever bow down to each and any kind of temptation that them come around. We try to make me fall. God, you make me strong. Now me sing a song and give it you all. Take it from me, Lord God, I adore you. There's no other thing I could put above you. Even full strength, now my heart, you're so true. Help me live a life that you want me to. Oh yes, you are the best. Bradford confess to your bless, no man guess. Get through the test, but me still hold no face. And everything I've had, but you're always my strength. God, I'm thankful today for everything that you've given to me. I feel so happy today. And every time feels better for me. God, I'm thankful today. Oh, I feel so happy today. Oh, me really can't see
what a thing me waiting for. Figure thanks and praise up to you, Lord. You got me blessings flowing on them before. We such a greatest if me act like me not know. You make me live a life that is satisfied to your side. For you never lie, God give me light in any fight. I will always try just to make it right to your side. Now your arms tight, hold me every time. It feels so nice. Hot to deny, you made me a better man in this life. I'ma recognize your love for me, Lord, can never change. God, I'm thankful today for everything that you've given to me. I feel so happy today, and every time feels better for me. God, I'm thankful today. Oh, I feel so happy today. Oh, you give me everything me wanting, Lord, that you alone say me wanting. Make me comfortable when me step in, and when me come out, your blessings are follow me. You make it so easy, now for providence I'm full of conscience. Give me straight, keep me straight. In this life now make me go astray. With you my Lord, say me wanna stay. God, I'm thankful today